Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, Gordo Gambles, and welcome back to the After the Weigh-In show, UFC 275. We have ourselves an absolute doozy for us tomorrow, a nice little Singapore card, and I am excited to be joined by two awesome, stellar, smart, sharp guests. I don't got enough adjectives in the back pocket right now, but I'm ready to go. I think it's going to be a super fun card. I know I got two great guests. We're going to give a lot of opinions, and I know for sure we will definitely be disagreeing on some, and we'll have to hash it out here. So before we get into it, I have plenty of content out on the channel, so make sure that after the show is done to go check them out and also to check out my two wonderful guests in the descriptions down below. But without further ado, let's get her started. First things first, a man who's been, let's say, a prominent feature of the show, and we can finally be friends again because the Pens and Rangers aren't playing anymore. I'm happy to have him on once again, LiamPicksFights. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well, my man, and I hedged yesterday. I did what's called a sadness hedge. I bet a bunch of money on the Tampa Bay Lightning, so no skin off my nose. Tough night for the boys in blue, but hopefully we'll get them back tomorrow. And that's why you never bet on your team; you bet against them. So you leave either with money or with a smile on your face.
Hey, that's the unfortunate reality, man. But we're here to make a lot of money to make up for that sadness bet you just had. And this next guest, I beat him in fantasy baseball last week, so I gave him the worst punishment he could have, and that's joining us on the show. No, I'm just kidding. He's here, and he's actually, I think I just saw something, a jersey of his that he's wearing, so hopefully you guys don't fight too much, but we're bringing him in, Mr. MMAKelton. Welcome to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. Oh.
Let's go Bolts, baby.
Oh, no.
Bolts and 6.
My team is out, so I'm going to stay away from that one. But no, I'm super pumped to have both of you guys on. I have no idea what you guys are on, for being honest. It's been a busy week, but I have done my due diligence. I've done my research. I'm ready to break down some fights and make some money. So if you guys are new to the channel, you'll know that I usually have a lot of technical difficulties. So I apologize for the late start. Let's see if this works. Let's pull it up. And there's Tapology for us. Woohoo! Not working too bad today. So we'll see how this goes. We have ourselves a nice little 145 bout to start the night. Again, the card did drop from 12 bouts to 11. And I did take a big hit with the main card being out, but I still think we have a lot of good opportunities for us to make some money. Let's get her going right away. As always, we'll go through the entire card, top to bottom. I don't know about you guys, feel free to, but I will be talking about my DraftKings plays, so you can give a little shout if you guys are playing in that side. If not, betting is perfect. That's what we're here to do. First things first, Jocelyn Edwards, 10-4 versus Ramona Pascual, 6-3. Ramona Pascual had a pretty interesting debut. I was on a pretty big DraftKings wise when she fought Estela Nunes in her debut, and she did take a bit of a beating there, but she showed a lot of resiliency. She showed that she had a good takedown upside, and I think she actually has a decent path to victory here. I mean, Jocelyn Edwards has been controlled a lot in the past, and I know that she is going to have the huge advantage on the feet, but I do think Ramona Pascual is live here. This is one spot of two that I have not placed a bet, and I'm waiting to hear what you guys have to say. I'm leaning the dog in Ramona, but nothing played for me yet. Let's kick it off to you first, Liam. What are your thoughts on this bout?
Yeah, this is one that I actually looked into in more detail than I care to admit. I was kind of fascinated by it because you've got on the one hand Jocelyn Edwards, who has fought as low as 125 pounds. And then you have on the other hand, Ramona Pascual, who's been doing these catchweight bouts at 150 pounds. And frankly, if you just look at her resume, fight over fight, there's really no reason she should be in the UFC. But that does lead to the question, why is she in the UFC, right? And she did take a fight on short notice. She does, fight out of Vegas. She's based in Las Vegas, syndicate MMA fighter, has some good training partners, not elite level UFC fighters, but a lot of UFC fighters around her same weight class and size. So you expect she's making improvements. And really the reason that this is a compelling matchup at all is that she's going to bring a wrestling and grappling based approach to this fight in all likelihood. If you watch her fights, she's not very competent in any one phase of MMA, but she is pretty persistent and aggressive, and she's got good heart. So I think that in this fight, that might be enough, and I know people are going to call me crazy because I've heard a lot of people say they're pretty confident in Jocelyn Edwards. I do think if this fight takes place on the feet, it's clear that she's the more accurate striker. She's a lot cleaner, but she does throw loopy shots. She does put herself right in range to be taken down, and I haven't seen her defend a takedown properly yet. In all the tape that I watched, I saw her get taken down pretty easily, give up guard passes without a ton of resistance. And she's got a big, long, lanky frame. So she was able to like kick her legs up and get out of mount a couple times when she bailed herself out in positions that, more competent ground players could have finished her. So I think that overall, this is not a great matchup for her. I do think that there is a size disadvantage in terms of Edwards. She did make 145 here, but she can get down to 125. Nutritionists at the UFC PI are telling Ramona Pascal, don't go down to 135 unless you're going to give your body a lot more time to adjust. So I think that she is the naturally bigger woman here. And size is always a factor in women's MMA. It's bit me a million times trying to back somebody because they're more skilled or I think they're better. And then they just get laid on in a fight that is only put together, because they kind of needed to keep this fight together, right? Like she called them 2 weeks ago and said, hey, I'm not going to be able to make the weight. What do you think? So they moved it up to a weight class that's more beneficial for her. I think that can only play to her advantage here. So while Edwards is training with the champ and Shevchenko, the sisters and all this stuff, she's also based out of Vegas. These girls walk past each other at the gym and all that. I think that it's kind of a fight that gives Pascal a fighting chance when she really doesn't have many of those in the UFC. So for that reason, it would be a dog or pass situation for me. I think more often than not, if Pascal wins this, it's by decision by getting more wrestling time on top here. But she can also finish a submission here potentially because she's going to have a size advantage.
She could. I know I do like her to start the card, and I am a DraftKings player at heart, right? So I see someone with a huge takedown, heavy control time path to victory, and it's really tempting me in the dog, but there is no bet for me yet. Kelton, are you on the same side as us? Are we thinking a dog to start the card?
Man, so I mean, this is a really close fight, and with that being said, with the way the line is, I did pick Pascal on my podcast last night. However, I'm kind of rethinking that pick, to be honest, just because, like, the more I think about it, like, yeah, Pascal has a clear wrestling and grappling advantage in this spot, but the way she goes in for these takedowns, she just kind of charges forward recklessly, and I kind of think she's just way outmatched on the feet here to where it's going to be hard for her to set up those takedowns. And I mean, we could see some improvements from Jocelyn Edwards. Of course, it's not been pretty in the past. Like, even look before the UFC, the Sarah Alpar fight, that was really ugly. She got taken down a bunch there, held down a bunch there. The Jessica Rose Clark fight, Jessica Rose Clark is a flyweight. And Jocelyn Edwards, I believe she fought at flyweight too, and she's taking on a 45er here. So, like, a size advantage with a wrestling advantage with a grappling advantage, and she's the dog. It's definitely interesting. I don't see it going well for her on the feet at all here. And I mean, even when she does get her down, it's like her top control doesn't look good. I understand that Josiane Nunes, like, that girl is really strong, and she was able to kind of neutralize what Ramona was doing and was able to keep it standing. Jocelyn's not quite as strong as her, I don't believe. So I don't know, man. It's just kind of a sloppy fight. I could see either girl, doing her thing here, but it's just a matter of what happens tomorrow. So I'm going to go with the favorite, but I think the value is on the dog.
Value is the name of the game, and I think that if we're talking from a DraftKings point of view, I think that like Edwards' path to victory is to keep it on the feet, striking a fair, right? It doesn't score very well. She's a fade for me up top, but Pascal's win condition, lay and pray, takedowns. Liam, anything else?
The last thing I'll mention, though, is if you told me after the fact that Ramona Pascal got knocked out, guys, I'm just not going to be surprised. Like, she doesn't defend strikes. She just walks forward, and she's a tough girl. But Josiane Nunes is not very big and was just easily just teeing off on her with shots. And I think eventually, if you keep doing that, that's not going to pay off over the long term. Her eye was completely shut. Different referee could have stopped that fight anyway. So just things to think about. Like, you don't want somebody who's just going to take massive amounts of damage on the feet. That's the only path towards an Edwards finish, I would think. Also, though, I will just say, Edwards is not good at jiu-jitsu. Like pure jiu-jitsu. No. She's getting her guard passed left, right, and center. But she does have those arm bars that she attempts from guard. She will throw them up, and I don't know enough about Ramona Pascal on top to rule that out. So I'm just saying that it's a sloppy fight. I think there's value on the dog, but it's not like I'm, making a big play. If anything, it would be a small play for me just on a size-based, women's MMA underdog. But yeah, Ramona Pascal, I like her mindset. I like her personality. She seems like a cool girl, but it's also like, a lot to ask when your best win is a 2-0 chick in Invicta that looked like she's never fought before, with respect.
Yeah, the words I don't like to hear is size does matter, and we'll see how this one plays out here. But one more thing before we move on to the next fight, shout out to everybody in chat. Tim out here, he's already given those split decision props. It wouldn't be a live stream without Tim's split decision props. So I'll talk about those in a bit. What's up, everybody? Hope everything is going well for you guys. Let's move it along. I think the funniest thing is seeing these FanDuel ads when there are no props out for these last two fights. Like, look at them pop up all over the place. But they're just teasing us because there are no props out on FanDuel for this fight, and that is something I'm really looking forward to. I'm passionate about this one. I'm actually really looking forward to this fight. So before I go on a huge tangent talking about it, I'll let you guys take the floor. I'll be happy to move along from there. But Kelton, we'll start with you. How do you see this one going down?
I mean, you said it. This is low level, but it's going to be very exciting low level, and like just the way both these ladies fight, like with Silvana Juarez, excuse me. I mean, both these ladies are kill or be killed for sure. It's just kind of completely different styles. Whereas Na Liang is going to be going straight at her, trying to get her down, going to try to sub her. Silvana's going to try to take her head off, and both ladies' weaknesses lead into each other's strengths. Like Na Liang is going to be there to get hit. Silvana has actually above average power for 115er, I'd say. Like, she can crack. And then opposite with the ground, like Silvana submitted twice first round in her UFC career so far. And Na Liang has a shit ton of subs. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I want to say at least like 12 or 15, something like that. Like, that is her strength. So yeah, again, it's just a matter of who can get their game going. Man, theme of the night on this card is striker versus grappler. It's pretty crazy. And we lost one too with Bontarine and Cape. That was another one there. But yeah, man. With this fight being in Asia, I kind of want to just lean the Asian fighter at dog money, just because it kind of feels like that's just the value spot. Like, you want to take these underdogs that have a decent chance to win, and she's got a decent chance to win. So yeah, I mean, as long as she doesn't gas out and let this fight get extended like she has before, like the cardio's not good. That's one of her biggest weaknesses. As long as she can get it done early, like she's probably going to look like a hindsight favorite here. So I'm going to go with Na Liang by submission, first or second round.
Man, I completely agree. And I think it's hilarious that these two are matched up. It's such a weird dynamic. This fight is absolutely insane. I got so much to talk about on this one, and I'll let Liam go first. I'll be respectful here because I'm sure I can go on a huge tangent for this one. It's fun. So, Liam, what are your thoughts on this one?
I'll be super quick about this fight. You know, I think Silvana Gomez Juarez is a regional level fighter. I do think that she has good power. You know, I think she's kind of capped out at where she's going to be in the UFC. She's going to be fighting these lower level fighters or not in the organization. You know, she's a little bit older. Na Liang, kind of prospect age, and seems like a matchup where they're trying to put her in a position to succeed. You know, Ariane Carnelossi, we saw her last fight, prone to getting out wrestled. Na Liang out wrestled her pretty consistently for about 4.5 minutes and then completely death gassed. I think that it's very possible she death gasses in this fight too if she doesn't get the finish. But we've seen that if there's one thing Silvana Gomez Juarez likes, it's giving up arm bars in the first round. So that's like her win condition. For that reason, I just think it was an obvious dog or pass spot. I'm disgusted with myself because I've been looking at it all week. Now it's plus 110. Probably just going to have to let it go by me. But yeah, I think Na Liang is probably the side. But ABC say always bet on cardio. And I do think that even at 37 years of age, Silvana Gomez Juarez does have the better cardio in this matchup. But do you really want to trust a girl who's been finished twice in 2 UFC appearances in like 2.5 minutes each time? I don't know. I don't know that I do. I don't think her fight IQ is very high. I think Na Liang, if she wants takedowns, should get them. So I would ultimately have to favor her.
Man, two things. First of all, if you'd have told me that I'd be watching Na Liang versus Ariane Carnelossi on a repeat a few years later, or a year later, would never have believed you. But if you combined Na Liang's skill set with, let's say, the heart of Ramona Pascual, for example, like, you get a really good fighter. I think Na Liang has some really good skills. It's just she has that cardio wall. She has 4 minutes, and it's mainly because she is pushing a high pace. But what she does best, she does it very well. That doesn't make any sense. What she does best is she goes out there, she shoots takedown right away, and she knows her game plan. I don't think that her determination is a problem. It's, can she maintain that for a long period of time? I think that Na Liang is probably the better fighter here. I think that she has more skill set. I think she has the ability to go out there and get that submission. I mean, the biggest hole in each one of these games is plays in the other's strengths, right? So you have someone Na Liang who will shoot takedowns, no problem, not worried about that. And it's not like Silva Gomez Juarez has this amazing takedown defense and ground game. It's can she get her out of there early? Because if it gets extended at all, Sylvan's probably going to knock her out. Na Liang couldn't even get to the stool at the end of the first round last time. And that reason, not only am I on Na Liang to win, I do think she goes out there, subs her early, because if anyone, she's going to get a submission against anyone in the UFC, it will be Gomez Juarez. But I also think the under is the way to go. I'm not alone in thinking this. Everybody's waiting for FanDuel to drop their props, but this will be a very big bet for me. Na Liang, 24 fights, has only seen the third round once. She's a killer to be killed fighter. And for that reason, like, not only do I love this fight from an under and a betting perspective, but I love it from a DraftKings perspective as well. You give me the perfect GPP lineup, right? Perfect GPP fight, sorry, is someone who will go out there, will push a pace, either score 120 in a first round finish or lose, and her opponent will score probably 100 herself, right? It's a striker versus grappler. I know Na Liang will shoot takedowns, but can she secure them? Can she keep top control? Can she get that notorious armbar that Silvana gives up? I'm going to lean towards yes. I do think Na Liang should be the favorite here because it's not like a question of will she shoot takedowns. It's a question of can she get her out of there early? And for that reason, I took the dog shot. I got a unit on Na Liang at plus 140. I'm waiting to drop the hammer on the under, and it's going to be a big fight for me. I'm very excited for this fight, and I never thought I'd be saying that. I think that it's super fun to watch. It's going to be an exciting way to kick off the second fight of the card, and just give me some violence, all right? Na Liang early sub, Silvana second round knockout. Those are the two ways to go. I'm playing violence here, and I'm playing it pretty big. Move on to the next one. I see we're talking about Malkoon in the chat. What's going on, everybody there?
Dogs barking in the background. Just gotta say, dogs barking.
The dogs are barking.
I don't know if it was for our girl Na Liang or our girl Ramona Pascal, but maybe you gotta fire one unit on each. Just guarantee coverage there. Dogs are agreeing.
You know what, man? It is absolutely insane. Last week I had 8 bets. 7 of them were favorites. I went 7-1, hit all my favorites, missed one of my underdogs.
You son of a bitch.
This week, I have 5 moneyline plays, and they are all underdogs. It is absolutely insane. That's not really like me.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Well, yeah, you're right. It's going to be so much more fun, too. I'm sorry. It's just, I'm usually, like, Liam, you know me. I'm a very conservative bettor when it comes to this stuff. But, man, the dogs are definitely barking, including this next one here. I'm picking 3 dogs to start the card, and we're picking Mr. Perfect Kang over here. And before I get the breakdowns going, let me just remind everybody that, let's say, Bakary Dana fought, a month and a half ago at UFC Columbus. Me and Liam were in attendance to watch that spinning back fist. And all I remember the entire time is Liam screaming at the top of his lungs behind me, Bakary, 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 just like
dude, you got the cadence all wrong. It's Bakary.
Yeah, that's all I could hear. I will never forget that moment where it was an incredible knockout. What I remember the most is probably Liam screaming that. So you got to keep that in mind. Dana just got knocked out pretty recently, like very recently. But I don't think that's where Kang wins this fight. I do think there's a huge grappling upside. He's the more well-rounded fighter, and I'm excited to hear your takes on this one because it is my lowest played dog. I only have a 0.8 units on this. I didn't go a full unit stab because of my DraftKings involvement on Kang, but I'm excited to hear your thoughts on this one. Liam, we'll start with you and your boy. Are you backing once again? Will you be screaming at the TV?
Man, I can definitely tell you I will not be backing my boy Bakary in this fight. Not to say that I'll be backing Kyung Ho Kang, because I do think that there's a chance he loses this fight as well. I think both guys have a clear path to the victory here. Dana Bakary, I do think he's the much more dangerous guy on the feet. Kyung Ho Kang has some knockdowns and stuff, but more so against guys who are a little bit loose in the striking. I do think it was kind of an anomaly that Dana got caught like that. Not to say that Gutierrez can do it again. He's very clever. He's very crafty. But I just mean, I don't know how many other guys could replicate that result. It was just like, well-timed counter with a spinning attack. Most guys don't even attempt that. So, Bakary just has a little bit more of a traditional game. He likes to throw his hands and hurt people with them. And I do think that at times Kyung Ho Kang can get out there and trade with people, and that'll put him in danger in this fight. I do think he's been buzzed in a couple of his UFC bouts, and Dana Bakary can definitely buzz you with a shot. But with that being said, hasn't been challenged by a wrestler in some time. The best wrestler he fought in the UFC is Haile Alatang, took him down several times. Haile Alatang's really not that proficient a wrestler in terms of his control style, grappling. He's kind of got that take you down, let you right back up to your feet. So it didn't really work for him to get a super clear win there, but it was able to, sway that split decision and kind of interrupt the rhythm of the fight. I think certainly Kyung Ho Kang is a better grappler. So I think that he'll be able to mix in more extended grappling scenarios, maybe take the back. But I also think he's a little bit suspect in the gas tank. I think both these guys have a little bit of that suspect gas tank, and he is just a little bit older, a little bit more shot-born, a couple more fights under his belt. So I think, probably close to accurate pricing, but if I had to play a fighter on this fight, I would pick Kyung Ho Kang. And I think for DraftKings purposes, which is what you're normally looking for, I think he's an obvious kind of underdog look this week if you're looking to round out an underdog lineup, because he's got a very particular grappling path, and who knows if the gap is wide enough on the ground, which it very well could be, he might submit him as well. He might have that finishing upside. He might get some control time in this fight because Bakary just really hasn't been tested against many grappling threats.
Halatang Haley, he got takedowns at will in that third round. That's all I'm saying. Kelton, who are you on here?
Man, so this is the first of 3 bets on the card for me. I'm on the underdog Kyung Ho Kang. I got in early plus 129. I just think there's enough reasons to believe he should be the favorite in this spot. The way this fight matches up, it's really all about grappling upside versus power upside. And the thing here, like Bakary, I'm not a big fan of his. It's not so much his cardio; it's that he puts everything into his punches, so he just naturally slows down. And if he's out here missing strikes, which he does do a lot, he misses a lot of strikes. I don't have the striking accuracy numbers at the top of my head, but I know they're not very good. If he's out here missing early, gets taken down early, having to use a lot of energy, I kind of see Kong taking over rounds 2 and 3 with the grappling. He's got a lot more UFC experience. This guy's been in the UFC for like a decade. Bakary, he's got some fights, but like a lot of them are first round knockouts. So he doesn't have a whole lot of octagon time. Like he might have like 5 UFC fights, but not a lot of time racked up. I kind of feel like he's still developing, whereas we got prime Kyung Ho Kang right here. I know he's taken some damage as well, but I kind of feel like the inactivity in recent years might be a benefit to him where, he's not taking a lot of shots. Maybe it could be a negative. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, if I'm picking an underdog, most of the time I got to bet it at a line like plus 129. So hopefully that comes through. I'm going to pick him by a third round sub.
I love it, man. And to answer your question, is 30% 30% striking accuracy on Zanab Bakary. So you definitely said it. You hit all the points I wanted to. And I think this is a perfect buy low spot on Kang here, just because not only is he not fighting recently, but his most recent matchup was not the best stylistically for him. He's getting a complete change in opponent, right? You're going from a guy who you can't really take down, exploit that ground game, versus a guy who has a ground game to be exploited. And it's not like we have Kang having this huge chin deficiency either. He's been knocked out once. Soccer kicks, I'd crumble to everything, but soccer kicks definitely, right? So I think it's a fun bout. Give me the dog. More well-rounded fighter, better grappling upside. I do think he is very, very alive here. And what I like to do is sometimes I don't like to have both a huge involvement on DraftKings and a huge betting play as well. So I took 0.8 units at plus 130 for Kyung Ho Kang, and I'm playing it on DraftKings as well. It should be a really good fight, and I'm looking forward to it. I think that there's definitely some not only cardio issues, but some grappling upside for Kang here. And it should be a really fun one, but we'll move it along. I know that there is a lot of, let's say, controversial fights coming up here. And one that I've been talking about the most this week, and I wouldn't expect it to be talking about the most, is my arch nemesis, Jacob Malkoun versus Brendan Allen. Jacob Malkoun's a guy I've tried to fade in every single fight, and it worked out perfectly against Phil Haas. More than perfectly. But it's kind of come back to haunt me the past couple of fights. Malkoun has shown that he is a very, very smart fighter, and he's able to exploit other guys' weaknesses, but he's getting a tough matchup and one of the biggest steps up that I've seen in a long time here in Brendan Allen. Jacob Malkoun, friend and training partner of Robert Whittaker. He's a wrestler with great cardio, and he weaponizes it. And I think that for that reason, he is live to win a decision here. With that being said, though, he's going to have to, if you're holding a Malkoun ticket, you're sweating every single second of this fight because Allen is going to be the better striker. I think he's going to have many opportunities to throw up submissions off his back. And I do think that he is the rightful favorite here. No play locked in yet. Allen is someone I'm targeting on DraftKings, not someone I've really bet yet. But we'll kick it over to you first, Kelton. How do you see this one going down?
Yeah, man. I mean, initially I looked at it and was like, all right, I love this guy, Jacob Malkoun's style. He's going to come at you. He's just going to rinse, repeat, shoot all these takedowns. He has the cardio to back it up. His top control ain't half bad. But then the more I look into it, it's like he's only got 7 pro fights. These guys he's beat the last couple times. Razak Al Hassan. So that was like the worst version of Razak we've ever seen. And he didn't have really anything off his back there. And then AJ Dobson, another fighter with like 6 pro fights, really had nothing for him. But here against Brendan Allen, I mean, he's going against a guy with 3 times as much pro experience. Brendan Allen, he's been in there with everyone, man. And, you know, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so he's not going to be a fish off his back, even if it gets there. I think he's got way more tools on the feet. Like in the clinch, I feel like he kind of rips this dude up. Unless Malkoun is, you know, head buried between his legs or on top of Brendan Allen, this fight is not going to be looking good for him. Give me the guy that's way more well-rounded. Malkoun's a little too one-dimensional for me. Give me the guy with way more experience and a lot more just overall upside. So I think Brendan Allen is rightfully favored here at minus 300. I don't think there's value. I think that's accurate. So I'm just happy to sit back and watch him go to work on this guy.
Ducking the head in the crotch, man. We call
For
that
sure.
the,
I think Brendan Allen is rightful favorite, as I mentioned. Nice. I was just going to ask you too, because you know a lot more about this BJJ and wrestling stuff than me too, is I think that Brendan Allen's very live for a submission here. I mean, he's been able to submit some great practitioners and a lot easier than other people have. I mean, we just look at the Kevin Holland submission, how well that's aged. But what are your thoughts on this one? Do you think Brendan Allen's live for a finish, taking the shot on the dog? How do you see this one going down?
Yeah, well, actually, what's funny in that fight is I think the reason that Kevin Holland ended up losing that fight is because he was trying to grapple proactively and aggressively, and that's not what he normally does. You know, he can do a little bit of that, especially against guys he's much better than. Like, who's that guy he just picked up and threw? Ontiveros, I think it was, that he hurt him on the slam, right? So it's like, if Kevin Holland's way bigger than you and he could just ragdoll you, throw you around, he could do that. But he actually kind of gassed himself there. I don't know if you guys remember that fight. He took his back. He was like wrecking Allen in the grappling, and then he kind of got tired and made some mistakes like Kevin Holland's prone to do over the course of a fight. You know, he doesn't always keep his focus, and he gave up his back. And Brendan Allen, he's a competent finisher. I actually think there's been a number of times he's made like categorical, like serious grappling errors that could have gotten him finished. And he's then bailed himself out because the guy he was grappling against wasn't as good as him. Like Carl Roberson had like all these opportunities and then goes into a leg locking exchange, having no knowledge of what to do there, and then ends up getting finished. So I think this is the kind of fight where I could see, you know, Brendan Allen is just a complete banana peel fighter as far as I'm concerned. And people can back him. I understand it. I actually do. Like, looking at his skills, he looks really good. Beating up Punahele Soriano, I was like, wow, I did not expect that at all. Like, the guy comes out and surprises me sometimes, but anytime this guy stumbles, I am not surprised because like I'm always waiting for the tumbling block. Like, I think there's just something off about Brendan Allen when I watch him fight. You know, the Sean Strickland fight, he like after the fight, he's like still talking to Strickland, like, I want to get in there again. Before the Chris Curtis fight, he's talking to him outside the octagon. He gets brutally finished. It's just like the guy doesn't get it. You know, he doesn't learn the lesson sometimes. And I think, like, what is Brendan Allen? Is he going to come out here and grapple in this fight? I don't know. Like, is he going to come out here and try and be a Muay Thai kickboxer? Because if he does that, you know, maybe he looks minus 300. If he comes out here and tries to grapple with Jacob Malkoun, does he gas himself out in 7 minutes? I would not put that past him. I've seen him do that before too. So I know that Malkoun has 15 minutes of being an annoying pace grappler. Like, I don't know that he's like perfect at it. Yet maybe he's got 12 and a half minutes. Like, I don't think Malkoun's an exceptional fighter by any means. I think he's the far less dangerous party, but I'm not laying -3XX on Brendan Allen against like a warm body most of the time. I'm just not doing it. Personally, that's my style of betting. I think he's a banana peel waiting to happen against lesser competition as well. So I think Malkoun could make it interesting. If it takes place on the feet, he's probably getting knocked out, and that would be fun.
You know what line I'm looking at, and I was gonna go look at it, but Jay Smooth said here, FanDuel Canada's brutal. Usually they do have those finish no bets, decision no bets. We should just be betting Allen inside the distance here. I don't see him winning a decision at a high clip, but I think this is a very interesting fight. I've been tempting to pull the trigger on Allen all week, and I can. I think that you got some decent shots there on Malkoun. You're convincing some people here in the chat, and I get it. I know that.
I don't let me tell you I'm playing him. I'm not, by the way. I haven't played this guy. If I get to the window, I'll let you know. But like when I just look at a Brendan Allen fight and he's -250, I just move on. I'm like, it's either dog or pass for me. Just period. Like that's just my style of betting.
When I first saw these names, so we have Jacob Malkoun, a guy who I can't get right. I bet against him his last 2 fights. Didn't go well for me. And then you have a guy in Brendan Allen who I've bet on, who's slipping that banana peel, as you said. It like everything is screaming like, Gordo, stay away from this fight. Like, why are you even thinking about betting it? But I want to. Like, I think that Allen is the rightful favorite here, and I'm tempted to put it in a parlay piece, but like you're saying here, parlay buster, looking like it. So maybe I'll stay away. I got enough parlay pieces with some Lan Yang unders.
Just one last thing I'll leave you with on this fight. The times that Brendan Allen's been priced at this range, he was -373 against Larry Crow in the LFA, and he knocked him out in the first round. More power to you. He was -290 against Dawkins. You'll remember he lost the third round of that fight, was getting out wrestled and tired out significantly, going for the finish early, by the way. Then he loses to Chris Curtis as a -305 favorite, gets knocked out in the second round in brutal fashion. And then he wins against Sam Alvey in round 2 via sub as a -360 favorite. So that's his history in this odds range where, I mean, like, I don't know about you guys, but like Sam Alvey is like got to be fired from the UFC. Like he just has to be. And I've been betting him along this whole run of losses. Like, I like Sam. He's got to go. Like, the guy can't fight at this level at all anymore. So I think, that doesn't really tell me a lot, the only thing that it tells me, if you're having competitive minutes with Sam Alvey for any period, is like future fade list. Like I've done with Ryan Spann. Not in his last fight. I bet him by sub at +900, but still,
flex.
Not a fight I want action on.
Fair play, man. I think you swayed me away from it. I think I'm going to pass on this one. I will have a lot of Allen ownership on DraftKings because his ceiling's pretty high as well. And I don't see Malkoun finishing him in the first couple of rounds, and that gives him a decent floor. And it's not like you have many 9K reach options up top, especially with all these live dogs, right? So I think it's a pass on the money line, man. I'll give it to you. But this next fight, I'm telling you, this one's fun. I'm looking forward to this one a lot more than I really should be. You have this guy making his debut. I'm going to butcher the name, but Mahasheti, I think it's how you say it. I know, Liam, you're the master of calling those names, so I'll let you correct me if I said it wrong. But 6-1, making his debut against Steve the Mean Machine Garcia, 12-4. Now, Mahasheti, I think you cashed on him, Liam, on Dana White Contender Series?
I did.
Only
took that half unit shot, but I took half a unit at +475, or excuse me, a quarter unit at +475, and the line kept going, so I took another quarter unit at +575.
You monster. Well, I'll tell you something right now. He's getting a tough step up in competition. Steve Garcia is a very, very good, let's say, on paper fighter, because where his biggest hole in his game seems to be his durability. And I know that Steve Garcia looked great his last time out. Not the best win in the world against an opponent, but he did get dropped 3 times. And it's a really tempting look. If you look at it from a strictly striker versus grappler standpoint, Steve Garcia has the huge edge. Mahasheti's been taken down several times, not the best takedown defense, not the best ground game. But every second it's on the feet. You have a guy in Mahasheti who's young, who's improving, who has a decent boxing pass, who's going to be able to connect with the chin of Garcia. I'm tempted. And when I say tempted, I mean, I've already bet it. I'm on the dog here. I think Mahasheti's going to be able to put some decent pressure on him. I know that every time he gets taken down here, it's going to be a question mark, but every round starts on the feet. And from what I've seen, that Mahasheti's been able to defend the submission attempts pretty well. He looks to have decent submission defense. So give me a shot on the dog here. I think that whenever it's on the feet, he's going to have the advantage. I know he's got some fast hands, maybe not the most volume, but I think that if you're holding a Garcia ticket, you're sweating every time they connect. And for that reason, I hope Machete gives him a nice little chin check here. Liam, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, man, I tend to agree with all your sentiments on this fight. I have not bet Mahashate here. Kind of hoping that there's more Steve Garcia love that comes in, and maybe then I'll get involved. He started as a -300. I think people might see that. They might see the record on paper. They might see some of the wins. The Ronnie Lawrence win certainly has aged well for our man Steve Garcia, but I was one of the guys that was out there laying the -3XX on him against Charlie Ontiveros and pooping my pants as he's out there getting stanky legged in the first 30 seconds. And he cashed all my bets. I have to say, soldier he is. I think I had inside the distance, like I had every different way you can imagine on Garcia that night. So very thankful he was still able to get the job done, but certainly went to my future fades list from there. I don't think Mahashate is very good at MMA, but I do think that he's pretty durable and he's young and he's athletic. So there's a chance that he can knock this guy out because I don't think Charlie Ontiveros is, a particularly good MMA fighter, but he's dangerous. And he was able to put this guy on wobbly legs and all sorts of things. And so now you're seeing, potentially a market overreaction. That's kind of why I want to wait and see if this line will balloon back up. I do think that there's room for people to come in on the Steve Garcia side here. But yeah, I would not be comfortable backing him given, I think you said that it was the durability. I would say it's the brain thinking too, just why are you not going out there and shooting a takedown in the first 5 seconds against that guy? It could have been, what's the name of the guy that we saw in Columbus? It could have been a Slava Borishev situation where you just take the guy down from rip and there's no, you don't have sketchy moments in the fight. And instead he's out there, trading axe kicks and gets dinked on the head and he's doing the salsa. So I don't like any of it. And it's got to be a dogger pass for me.
For sure. Before I pass to you, Kelton, this is a fight I'm really targeting on DraftKings because I do see finish upside from both guys. What I will say too is I've butchered the line movement. I have a lot of very good line, like positive EV spots here, but not on this one. I have bet Mahashate at plus 145. He is now plus 168 certain places. So the line is definitely ballooning back up. Kelton, what are your thoughts on this one?
Real quick, just to address that Ronnie Lawrence win that Steve Garcia has. So that was at 135 pounds. Ronnie is a bantamweight. Steve Garcia at that time, he was a weight bully. Like he had no business being at 135 pounds. I believe he might have even missed weight for that fight. And not only that, Ronnie Lawrence was green at the time. He had 5 fights. It's not the same guy we're dealing with today. Mahashate is a real lightweight, right? The dude could arguably fight it. He probably will finish his career at 170. He's way bigger than Ronnie Lawrence. So anyone bringing up the Ronnie Lawrence win, I don't think that's really relevant. But for this matchup, man, initially wasn't familiar with Mahashate, was very familiar with Steve Garcia. Naturally, Steve Garcia is a guy near the top of my fade list. I tend to think he's kind of like an LFA level fighter. And then I watched Mahashate's Contender Series fight. Of course, we all know he kind of gets put it on him in that first round, but you got to be impressed with the heart and the fighting spirit and the cardio he showed in rounds 2 and 3. That's exactly what you want to see from a guy with less than 10 pro fights. I think he's got potential. However, I just think it might be too soon for him. He's very green on the feet. The defense it's bad. Both these guys' defense is really bad. For as long as this fight stays on the feet, man, I see it being a war. I see both guys getting cracked. The thing for me is Steve Garcia, in my opinion, has the wrestling upside here. He's got a big experience advantage. I don't know, man. It's a tricky fight because obviously you don't want to bet Steve Garcia, especially the way the line is right now. So I guess if you put a gun to my head and say you have to bet a side that you think is value, I guess it's Mahashate. He's clearly got the higher ceiling. It's just a matter of where is he right now. And right now I tend to think he's not ready. Steve Garcia's paid some dues. So I think he's going to take a 29-28 unanimous decision here.
Nice. Okay. I do like that. Sometimes you have to disagree, right? I think it's going to be a close fight. Of course, I can say that, and either guy can go out there and either get. I'm predicting either an early Garcia submission or an early Machete like knockout. I mean, Garcia's been cracked. Garcia's also shown to have decent wrestling chops, so it's gonna be a fun one. Like Liam mentioned, the IQ man, is Garcia gonna go for those takedowns right away? I don't know. I'm definitely cheering for Mahashate. I definitely think it's be a fun fight, and I'm excited to see how it goes in the UFC. Maybe the home crowd behind him will help, but we'll have to see. Next fight up, Sungwoo Choi, Joshua Kulabau. This is one that I don't have the most interest in from a betting side. And same thing with on DraftKings, right? DraftKings player at heart, and seeing their average stats, how much they put up on just raw fantasy points on per minute, looking at what they score on average on a win too. Neither of these guys really appeal to me from a DraftKings point of view. Joshua Kulabau's 0 for 17 on 0 for 11 on takedowns or something crazy like that. It's weird. I don't see much grappling upside for either of them. I think it's be a lower pace striking affair. I'm going to side with Choi, but no real passion from me on this one. Kelton, we'll start with you. How do you see this one going down?
Yeah, I agree with you, man. The way I see this fight playing out, like, I think Choi's biggest strength is his power. The dude hits very hard. The deal with Kulabau, though, is that the guy is very tough. He's got a good chin. He's durable. So, and he can crack on his own, man. He's not a bad striker. And I think he's not a world beater by any means, but I think he has kind of overachieved in the UFC. And that's just due to he's very tough. He's technically sound. Like, he's not a bad fighter by any means. Like, yesterday when I was breaking this fight down in my podcast, it seemed like I had nothing good to say about Kulabau, but I do think he belongs. He can win this fight, especially with the way Choi has been able to slow down at times. But I tend to think Choi might have learned a lesson in that Caceres fight to not get too overeager, conserve that energy. And I agree with you. I think this one's going to be a little bit more slower pace than what we usually see from Sungwoo Choi. And I tend to think he kind of just picks apart Kulabau and lands the more powerful shots over 3 rounds. So give me a Sungwoo Choi. I'll say 29-28 unanimous.
And whereas I agree, it's not a pretty sight for DraftKings, so kind of a stay away fight, which kind of limits our upper echelon of that, like of the 9K range, right? You have Valentina, and then who do you have? Brendan Allen, Sungwoo Choi. Like, are either one of those necessarily good pay up options? I don't know. DFS master himself, Liam. No, okay. Liam, how do you see this one going down?
And DFS master, that's funny. Dude, this is a kind of fight where, my take. It's probably going to be a little bit different than mainstream, right? Josh Kulabau's somebody I've been higher on than the market since he came to the UFC. I bet him in the draw against Charles Jourdain. So I've been trying to find the right time to get on board with this guy. I do think that he's a little bit green. I don't think he mixes in wrestling and grappling very efficiently. He is a BJJ purple belt. I don't think he's incompetent on the ground. I do think that he has some skills there. And he's got the lower center of gravity in this matchup. He's a little bit shorter. He's going to be giving up a tiny bit of reach here. So I do think that, Sungwoo Choi has kind of shown that he can be outgrappled by smaller guys. Gavin Tucker, very competent. I believe he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt or brown belt. But either way, he's kind of short, compact wrestler guy, got in the clinch and bodied this guy all around the octagon. And Sungwoo Choi, I've kind of had this feeling for a little while that he's good, but maybe a little bit overrated for what he's done so far. And so we look back at his UFC resume, and I think that you see that, right? He fights Movsar Evloev. Okay, really an unwinnable UFC debut. Tough breaks. And then they give him Gavin Tucker, a little bit of a step down. All right, not quite there yet. And they built him up, with some winnable fights. Suman Mokhtarian, Yusuf Zalal. Neither of these guys with the organization anymore, might I add. Yusuf Zalal fought him pretty competitively, I would argue. He made me think that Yusuf Zalal was pretty good, right? I was like, Yusuf Zalal is going to win fights in the UFC. He's competing really well with Choi. And then I'm like, wait, why does Yusuf Zalal never win another round in the UFC? Like, what's going on here? So that was a red flag for me. Then he beats Julian Erosa. But Julian Erosa is a guy that you'll either knock out in the first round or he's going to give you an absolute scrap. He knocked him out in the first round. He's got big power. Again, more power to you. Then we go to the Alex Caceres fight. Big fight IQ failures there. Alex is a dangerous guy, of course. We could all say that. But he was winning that fight cleanly, made IQ errors, cost himself the fight. So I think that his IQ is certainly a question mark coming into this fight, especially with a price tag like this. Josh Kulabau, what has he proven to you so far in the UFC? Yeah, maybe he's not the world's greatest fighter, but he's going to fight like a dog for your money. He's going to go out there and scrap, and he's going to try his best. He might hurt somebody he's not supposed to, like Charles Jourdain. You know, you look at their knockdown ratio, Sung Woo Choi, that's what stands out about him on paper. I love this guy. 3-to-1 knockdown ratio. That's pretty good. Josh Kulabau's got a 1-to-0 knockdown ratio, and he's got 1-1-1 in the UFC. His loss in the UFC is to Jalen Turner. Guys, Sung Woo Choi would get wrecked by Jalen Turner. All right? Jalen Turner is 170 pounds of mean in that fight. He absolutely wrecked him, and he got on top of him and brutalized him. He's got great jiu-jitsu. He's a huge, powerful guy. That's a different story. So I think that this is a much more competitive fight on paper. It would have to be a dog or pass situation at plus 200 on Josh Kulabau. I think that the public is going to keep disrespecting this guy. They don't know who he is. They see that he's got some losses. You watch these fights. Who bitched out this guy in the UFC? Jalen Turner. That's it. Jalen Turner's bitched out a lot of good guys in the UFC. Jamie Malarkey, durable as hell. This guy's got a chin from Hades. Yeah, he got put down bad because Jalen Turner hits like a truck. And I think the only guy to take out him in his recent UFC run was Vicente Luque, who's the death dealer of 170. So I think people must have forgot a little bit. Josh Kulabau is not a bum, and he's been spending a little bit more time in the training room than in the octagon. I think that could pay dividends here. He's a young guy.
And that draw against Jourdain's aging beautifully as well. Let me just add that.
Got out of a lot of dicey chokes.
It was that was a fun fight. Anyways, this one right here is one that I'm glad you're passionate about because I'm not. I think the dog is definitely alive here. Maybe we'll have to look into some DraftKings interest. I don't think he scores that well in a win, but I can't pay up and get Choi, right? If you're going to tell me if I'm going to take Choi or go down and get someone like Brendan Allen or Jerry Prochazka, I'm not going to take him at that range. So that's going to do it for me on that one. I do like your thoughts on the dog there, but nothing really interesting from me. Kind of boring, but that's okay. We'll move on to the next one because this next one is definitely not going to be boring at all. Jack Della Maddalena versus Ramazan Emeev. And I texted Liam earlier in the week. Well, this is the one I'm excited to hear you break down because whereas a lot of people are agreeing on certain spots like unders in the main event, unders in the Liang Na fight, people are disagreeing on this one. And you got a fighter in Jack Della Maddalena who's 11-2 on an 11-fight winning streak, but who's getting a huge step up, and he is let's say a decent sized favorite at minus 160 versus a guy in Emeev who, where he is 20-5, had a split decision his last time out. He's kind of on it's not a decline, but it's a buy low spot for Emeev here, I think, in my opinion. So I definitely think he has the path to victory. It wasn't long ago that Jack Della Maddalena was minus 110 to Ange Loosa, and Ange Loosa took him down, passed through his guard pretty easily, and almost choked him out. I'm not saying that Ramazan Emeev is some world beater. I'm just saying he has a path to victory. So when you're giving me this, plus 130, plus 140, I feel like he's being a bit disrespected. Liam, how do you see this one going down? Are you riding with the hot streak of Jack Della Maddalena, or are you taking the dog shot with me?
Yeah, this for me felt like a little bit of a pass spot. And the reason that I say that is, unfortunately, because I did miss the boat here. If I was to get involved, I would have liked to be on the plus money side on Jack Della. Early on, it was available. But I do think that I'm always looking for a dog or pass situation. That's what I prefer to be in by and large. I think that, do I want to lay the minus 160 with Jack? No, I'm not necessarily thrilled about that. But if you're asking me for my MMA analysis, I think that Jack's probably going to knock out Ramazan Emeev here. I think that Ramazan Emeev is a guy that is like, he's kind of holding a thin margin of victory. He's got to hold on to you. He's got to keep it close. He's got to, get some control minutes. He's got to put your hands to the mat, or he's going to be in a fight that doesn't favor him. I think in terms of the offensive variety that we're going to get, I think Jack Della is going to have him covered in that category. I think that in the volume, the attempts, we're going to get many more attempts at shots, at damage from Jack Della over the course of the 15 minutes here. So the way that they've been judging fights recently, I don't like that for Ramazan Emeev if it goes to full 15, because I don't think that he's a guy who puts clear stamps on it. I always talk about, I'm looking for people that are dangerous. I'm looking for people that are violent. I'm looking for people that can finish fights. And he doesn't fit that category for me. He really hasn't proven that he's very dangerous, that he's going to look for finishing opportunities. He's a guy who's going to try and wrist ride you against the cage and switch off one hand to another and maybe throw a couple of ground and pound shots. And look for his opportunities to pick you off. And not even saying that's not going to work here, but I do think that that's a thin margin, that at any time, if Jack Della gets some space and some separation, he could create a 10, 15 punch series that sends Ramazan Emeev flying. And the one thing I've noticed about Emeev over time is that he is slowing down. He does look a little bit more hittable to me. He looks a little bit more reactive. And I think that sometimes these people that are willing to take shots and keep coming forward to wrestle, when it goes bad. And when the UFC is trying to market people, they're not silly, right? They know Ramazan Emeev can wrestle, but I think they're looking at the same thing I'm looking at, which is this guy's getting a little bit slower. He's getting a little bit more reactive, and he might not be able to take this damage from this young guy on the come up who's going to be an ornery prick. Angelusa had him in a really tight choke, and he said, F you, I'm getting back up to my feet. And just like, what was the escape he did there? Is it any jiu-jitsu guys want to tell me? He did the get the hell off me, dude, and just like flexed and bucked and like shook. The guy has heart for days. I've seen him in really compromised position on the regional scene and fight his way back into the fight. I've seen him hurt early and come back. I think that Jack Della, he's got a lot of work and growing to do. Maybe that's what they're looking for in this fight. Go out there and get 8, 10, 12 minutes of experience here. But I do think that they're confident in booking this fight that he can finish Ramazan Emeev. I think they want to book this guy and send him to the moon. So I think they're going to try and ship the rocket ship, strap it to his back here. And I think the UFC really likes Jack Della. I liked him a lot on Contender Series, and I had a bet on Angelusa that night. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, I get those points. I do think that it is a huge step up, though. And where you are seeing he's getting out of those compromising positions. He was put there in the first place. And when you have a guy in Emeev who is a primary wrestler, where he's not the best at top control, he's going to go for them. He's going to test that takedown defense and that ground game of Jack Della Maddalena. Huge buy low spot for me. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm not. Kelton, are you going to break the tie for us?
Yeah, man. So it's been an interesting run for Ramazan Emeev. I remember watching this guy in the Russian regional scene way back in the day, and I was super excited for him to come to the UFC because he was beating a lot of guys that I had a lot of respect for at the time. Like Anatoly Tokov had like a 25-2 record or some shit at the time. He beat a lot of good guys with good records on that scene. And not only that, he was finishing guys. He was actually knocking people out. He was actually submitting people. He was looking real good. And it hasn't quite translated in the UFC. Like it started off real nice with the dominant Sam Alvey win up a weight class. What was the one after that? Alberto Mina, that was smooth sailing. Then we get to the Stefan Sekulic fight. That was a little too sketchy for my liking, as like a minus 500 or whatever he was in that spot. And then he takes on Anthony Rocco Martin in his backyard in Russia, drops that one. Gave him kind of a pass. Rocco Martin's he's a good fighter. Then the Nicholas Stoltz one, where Stoltz actually hurts him real bad in that first round with that step-in knee, and I actually think that could be a tool for Maddalena here to counter the.
Nicholas Stoltz was good.
Yeah,
come on.
And then ever since that Stoltz fight, I have been on the fade Ramazan Emeev train. I took big dog odds on Zawada and Danny Roberts. The latter worked out for me at it was like plus 300 or some shit. Now, I don't know if he deserved that win. It was really close, but hey, in a split decision type fight, you want to be in the plus 300, and that one happened to come through. And now you look here, you see it on the screen, Ramazan Emeev, he's 35 years old. I think what we got here is a fighter on the way up versus a fighter on the way out. It's just a matter of how far developed is Jack Maddalena in its MMA game, and how far gone is Ramazan Emeev. And, you look at it, what is the style that's going to beat Jack Maddalena? Well, it's a guy that's going to stick to you against the cage. It's a guy that's going to take you down. And that's exactly what Ramazan Emeev does. However, it's just not quite that simple, man. I just feel like the performances haven't been good. Like, I feel like Jack is going to have answers for everything he does. He comes off to me as a very intelligent fighter. I feel like he's going to be able to do the right things here to just get off much more damage. I don't think, if Emeev gets him down, is on top, I don't think that's the be all end all. And what has Emeev done from top recently? Like, there's really no submission threat anymore. And we've even seen Jack Della Maddalena fight out of a submission attempt. So we know the guy is defensively, capable on the ground. Like, I don't think it's going to be Ameev takes him down and it's pure dominance. What I do think is going to be pure dominance is the striking exchanges. So I think the money that's come in on Jack Della Maddalena is rightful. I wish I wouldn't have pussied out a week ago and actually took that minus 110, but now that it sits at minus 150, even minus 170, it's been getting steamed. I tend to think that's about an accurate line. So I'm going to sit back and see if Jack Della Maddalena, that's a tongue twister of a name, huh? Let's see if he's ready, man.
Yeah, it is going to come down to really, it's just going to be a striker versus grappler. I completely agree. It's not going to be game over. Jack Della Maddalena has heart. He has a good get-up game. He has a good defensive grappling, but he can be put on his ass. Like, I think that he can be put on his ass over and over again. And where it hasn't scored the best recently, I think is definitely a path to victory. He needs the more well-rounded guy, so not well-rounded, more tested guy in Ramazan Ameev. I mean, it's a huge step up from Pete Rodriguez, right? It's a completely different matchup. And I think you're growing a lot of hype from that one UFC win and where he did look well. It's not going to be the same fight against Ameev here. I think it's a buy low spot on him. It's going to be close. I like the dog, though. Not playing much on DraftKings. I do think this one goes the whole way. If I'm playing anything, I'm playing Ameev by decision. If you're still looking to bet, I should have done that instead of taking the money line, but I do have a bet on the money line for Ramazan Ameev. Yeah, Jay Smooth on Jack Della. I know a lot of people are. I get it. He's a better striker, but he's going to have to be careful to keep Ameev off of him. That wrestling upside is definitely in there. That's the biggest hole in Jack's game, and hopefully he's fixed it up if you are cheering for him. But I hope he does well. I do think Jack Della Maddalena has a good future in the UFC, and I just think that this is the best line you're going to get on him anytime coming up. So this is a true challenge. I'm taking the more tested vet in Ramazan Ameev. All right, let's move it along. Like I mentioned earlier, fight cancellation today. We should be talking about another one, but no, we're going to jump to the main card here. We're already in the main card. Jump to the next bout in the main card here. Jake Matthews, 17-5. Andre Fiallo, 16-4. Now, before I pass it to everybody else, this is a fight that you have everybody. I mean, you look at just who's betting it on best fight odds, and everybody is on Jake Matthews. And where I get that Fiallo's getting the step up, finally getting a guy who's going to grapple him and push the pace, I can't really wrap my head around taking a side on this one too passionately. I know Jake Matthews, a lot of people are saying he has the experience edge, he has the grappling edge. I mean, who's Jake Matthews' best win in the UFC, really? He's got a win over Jingliang Li a few years ago. I can't be as confident as everybody else on Matthews, and for that reason, I'm passing on this one. This is a fight I want no part of. Fiallo always has knockout power, but he's going to be tested on his ground game here. I do think Jake Matthews is able to push a pace and test that cardio out. If I'm going to bet anything at all down in my head, I'm taking Matthews round 3. I'm taking the big plus number, juicy number. Plus money, juicy number. Wow, there we go. But not one I'm really passionate about, not one I'm putting my foot down and betting. Kelton, what about you?
Man, it's been real interesting to watch Jake Matthews grow up in the UFC, not just like skill wise, but like physically. He used to fight at 155 pounds, and now he's out here. He's a huge welterweight, man. Watching him and Fiallo stare down, I'm like, there's some big boys. And I love this fight, man. I'm super excited to see how it plays out. I'm with you. It's hard for me to be confident on either side. I tend to think an underdog shot in Jake Matthews here, it might be a smart play, man. I just think he has more ways to win. He's more well-conditioned. Like, I tend to think if the fight goes to the later rounds, it's going to favor him. My only problem with Jake Matthews is his mental game. Like, sometimes he just has lapses in there. Like, for example, when he fought at 155 pounds, he fought a dude, Andrew Holbrook, who had close to no business in the UFC. Jake was like minus 600 in that spot. And I mean, it seemed like he should have dominated this guy. Unfortunately, he did not. He got a rinse repeat, kind of taken down, held down, stuck to like glue, and it just shouldn't have happened. And there's some other ones where it should have been more from Jake Matthews. It's just kind of, I don't want to say he has quit in him, but like, man, you can kill his confidence in a fight. And a guy like Fiallo with mega power, let's be real about it. Like, he's got above average power for sure. If he cracks Jake one good time, I mean, he's going to have Jake questioning himself. It could get a little dicey from there, but like, skill-wise, you should think all the takedown upside is with Matthews, the cardio, the UFC experience. It's a tough one, man. I'll go with the dog just because it's a close fight and he's the dog, but this is like literally the toughest fight in the card for me to call. I have a lot of respect for what Fialho has done. So I remember watching Fialho in the Bellator prelims like forever ago, and he was just smoking dudes. And I'm like, yo, this guy's going to be real good. And then he went on a real rough patch, and I'm like, well, I was wrong about him. He's never going anywhere. And then he, he put his head down, he grinded, he earned his way to the UFC, and he's out here smoking guys. So I have a lot of respect for him. So I definitely think he's probably rightfully favored just because we haven't seen a lot of Jake Matthews lately, whereas Fialho's riding hot. His confidence is at an all-time high, and it really just might take one good punch, not to just knock Jake Matthews out, but just to kind of kill the spirit of Jake Matthews, if you get what I'm saying.
For sure. And I feel like this is just a much higher level of the Garcia versus Mahachete fight, just because on paper, Garcia is the better guy, well-rounded, with all this stuff. But I mean, it's only going to take one punch from Fialho to really change the tempo of this fight. He's got power, and that's what he does best. And I think that if you take away everything Fialho has done, and know there's a lot of recency bias on this line, but if it's a 50-50 fight, I'm leaning towards Fialho here. I'm not as high on Jake Matthews as everybody else. I'm going to let Liam come correct me here if he thinks I'm wrong, but it's a fight that I'm necessarily not too passionate about. I'm excited to watch it, but from a betting standpoint, it's a complete pass for me. I feel like the bookies are definitely cheering for Fialho with all the action on Matthews, so it's one I don't really want to part in. So, Liam, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'll try and keep this one short and sweet. Jake Matthews is not a guy I've tended to back in the UFC. Don't tend to believe in his long-term upside. You'll sometimes hear me ask this question, but what exactly is Jake Matthews going to do? What is his game? And I know he can grapple a little bit. I know he's got decent hands and improving striking, but I can't clinically predict for you what a Jake Matthews win would look like, or what an ideal setup for him would be. Obviously, in this matchup, you'd think it's pursuing takedowns, but I think that sometimes people get a little bit quick to jump to there's two ways this fight could go. I mean, Andre Fialho has been chinned a couple times. If you've watched his career, the guy is a reckless brawler. But that being said, Jake Matthews hasn't really been chinned many times, but he has been hurt and then shot himself into a really stupid submission loss more than once. And I think that, Fialho is probably not going to look for a submission. He's just going to try and bounce his head off the canvas. The guy is a very violent fighter. So I don't think that that's a good matchup for Jake Matthews, really. Violent fights are kind of what scare him off a little bit. Not to say he can't do it. He has even come back from fights where he got rocked early and came back to win. But I do kind of agree with Kelton that there's that little air of, finding a way out with Jake Matthews that I don't really want to have a part in as a short underdog. If the price was a little wider here, maybe I'd get involved. I did back Fialho his UFC debut against Michel Pereira. So this is a guy that I kind of, view as talented. Don't love laying chalk with him because his cardio is sketchy and because his chin's a little sketchy. But I do think Fialho is certainly the more dangerous guy with this fight standing.
For sure, dude. I was on Violence that in his UFC debut, and he had a huge task ahead of him, Michel Pereira. But I do think this is a winnable fight for Fialho. But the recency bias make the line playable on him. I think it's dog or pass on Matthews, but staying away. I think we got 3 beautiful fights to end the card, and I could take a break on this one after all the action of underdogs I had prior. But we're going right back to an underdog right here. I think you guys know that one already. We have Joanna Jacek. I can't say that name. Let's call her Joanna. 16-4 versus Weili Zhang, 21-3. This is where I pass the mic to Kelton first because I know what he's going to say. But I think this would be a really, really fun fight. What I will say before I pass it to Kelton here is it's really hard for me to take any favor in this really heavily. I think that I've watched the first fight many times. Greatest female fight of all time. There's no question about it. It was an absolute war. I think that Joanna the fight. And I may disagree with a lot of people, but I think she did. A huge visual factor to it. But I think that without it, she wins clearly. And I think that when you give me a 3-round fight like this, Joanna's not going to she's a volume machine. She's not going to have to worry about much here other than winning these striking exchanges. And for that reason, if you're giving me plus 150 on someone like Joanna, I'm going to have to take it. I know Kelton's on the other side. I would love to hear why. Tell me about your shot on Mrs. Weili Zhang.
Yeah, so I planted my flag on this one. This is my second of third bets on this card. This is my biggest bet on the card. I got Weili Zhang. I got a lot to say here. So firstly, you got the first fight pulled up on the screen. That was over 2 years ago. Some things have happened since then. I think it's a little, irresponsible to just cap the fight based on that first one. You have to look at this new rematch as a completely different fight. And what can we take away from the past 2 years, or what can we believe could be different about this one? Because if you guys know the history of rematches, it's very, very rare that rematches play out a lot like the first one. We see it all the time. We'll see a close fight and then someone wins dominantly the second one, or vice versa. We'll see somebody dominantly win the first one and then we get a really close fight in the second one. So firstly, I believe Weili Zhang has all the upside to be the one to make this one more definitive. I kind of think with Joanna, your best case here is a close decision win, which it is possible, of course, but I don't see Joanna knocking out Zhang. I don't see her submitting her. I don't see her making it one-sided. I think Weili Zhang has all the upside to make it one-sided. She's in the time that Joanna has been away for over 2 years, where, by the way, it seems like she's kind of looking at life after fighting. Meanwhile, in that time, Weili Zhang took a real hard bump against Rose Namajunas, first round knockout, gets the rematch. How is she going to bounce back after getting, let's be honest, embarrassed against Rose? I thought she bounced back pretty nicely, man. No bias here at all. I truly scored the first 3 rounds for Weili Zhang, and I think you can make the argument she should still be the champion. Of course, it was a really close fight. If you scored it for Rose, I have no issue with that at all. I'm just saying that's more of just proof that Weili Zhang is still improving, can overcome adversity, and she's a fighter in her prime and easily a top 3 fighter in the division, whereas Joanna, she's coming up at 35 years old, very long career, lots and lots of wars, and not just the Weili Zhang one. We can look at Joanna wars from over half a decade ago. I know y'all remember those Claudia Gadelha fights. Those were amazing. We just saw Karolina Kowalkiewicz, her Polish buddy, bounce back last week. Kowalkiewicz had a big moment in that fight where she had Joanna on wobbly legs. It's been a long road for Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and I tend to think that this might be the time where it's pretty clear she's not going to be able to compete with the top 3 of the division. I kind of think she should have taken another Watterson type fight to bounce back here. Man, it's not easy to bounce back after 2 years, especially as a aging fighter. I think that plays a role, and another role in this fight. This one is not on neutral ground. I guess you can say it's kind of on neutral ground, but it is in Asia, a little bit more jet lag for Joanna on this one. And I tend to think the Asian fans might be behind Weili Zhang, but then again, Joanna's a huge name. I think the crowd might be split, but whenever Weili Zhang fights in Asia, it seems to be usually her best performances. So, and another thing I want to say, just because Joanna was able to eat all those shots in the first fight is not a guarantee that she's going to be able to eat all of Weili Zhang's biggest shots in this fight. We have seen Joanna put away before. Weili Zhang can absolutely crack with the best of them. I believe she's still improving. Maybe she has a little bit more success with takedowns in this one. In that second Rose Namajunas fight, she actually got Rose down. She had a little bit of top time. If we're being real here, Weili Zhang had more top time against Rose Namajunas than Carla Esparza did. Not that that's a big deal or anything. It was just a small.
In fairness, though, she had an opponent that wanted to fight her that night, whereas Rose had absolutely no interest in fighting Carla in 25 minutes. That fight blew me away.
Yeah, fair point on that one. And I was on Carla there, by the way. That was a great. Give me Carla plus 200 all day against Rose Namajunas. Give me Carla plus 200 against anybody.
Biggest bet of the year. Yes,
hey,
sir.
Let's go. But
you guys are crazy.
So yeah, man, long story short, I think it's irresponsible to kind of just think this is going to be close like the first one when historically that's not how rematches go. And yeah, I mean, sure, it could be close. I think more often than not, this fight does play out closely. But I just think the more powerful shots of Zhang is more appealing to the judges. Another thing I want to say, people are bringing up how their first fight, if it was a 3-round fight, Joanna would have gotten the judge's decision because she won 2 of the first 3 rounds. The thing with that is Weili Zhang was pacing herself for a 5-round fight, whereas this time she's not going to have to pace herself for a 5-round fight. So she's going to be more willing to throw big power early, be a little bit more active. So like, yeah, I don't think that means much to say that. So I don't know, man. I patiently waited all week for the line to go down. I knew Joanna's a big name. You're going to get some. I'm not saying it's from anyone on MMA Twitter. We're all pretty educated guys, but like there's a lot of casual betting on Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So I kind of knew the line was going to get better. Moved in at minus 153 on Weili Zhang. Pretty happy with that line. I played it to win 3 units, and hot take, I think she knocks out the great Joanna Jędrzejczyk this time.
Well, I always like to cheer, man. I hope you make some money this weekend, but not on that one. I'm head to head on you there, and I appreciate all your honesty and going through it. But I think that we're putting too much credence into not only the first fight, but also the power that Weili Zhang has. And that's all she has. I also don't think she has that same takedown upside just because she was training at Fight Ready. She's not doing that anymore. I don't think she's going to go for takedown. I think it's going to be strictly just a volume versus power bout. And when you're giving me volume versus power, I can't lay the chalk on someone who is just going to try to bomb everybody every time. Of course, that finish is always there. I saw it earlier in the week, and if I didn't already have a big bet on Joanna, I would have hit it. But earlier in the week, you could have gotten Weili by finish. So the scorecards equal no action, that crazy one. For minus 165, I do think that Weili Zhang is the more likely finisher. However, that being said, I'm on Joanna here. I think she wins a decision. I like her striking props. I like her to get more significant strikes, all that stuff. Liam, what do you think about this one?
We lose him.
Liam? All right.
They don't want this opinion out there.
There we
go.
Sorry, boys. They don't want me to get this opinion out there. They're worried. The bookmakers. No, I'm kidding. I truly am not passionate about this fight in the same way. So I wish you the best of luck on your big bet there, my friend. As far as I'm concerned, the metrics point to a Joanna win for me over 15 minutes here, barring a finish. So for me, that was the problem I was running into. Now, that being said, I think Kelton brought up a great point, which is Weili Zhang is the one who's been more active. We actually have seen in real time some development on the Weili Zhang front. She came out there with a much more sophisticated takedown game against Rose Namajunas. Probably credit some of that to the Henry Cejudo camp. Like you mentioned, not training there now. I believe she's in Thailand training for this bout. Will say, going to mitigate the jet lag a little bit. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, not really mixing it up, training at ATT, same place she's been since 2016. And she's going to be coming over from the States. So those are 2 things that are kind of to her detriment. But from an overall standpoint, I just think that Joanna's a little bit more crisp on the feet. And I think that when I watch Weili Zhang, she's very powerful. I bet on her in a number of instances, but I've actually lost a lot of money betting on Weili Zhang. Straight up, I bet 5 units on her the night she got knocked out by Rose Namajunas in the first round. And, when you were talking about this fight and just like having a weird feeling that it's not going to go the same way as the first one, I felt the same way, not as passionately, but that Joanna might actually catch her on the chin because Joanna's had 2 years off to refresh her chin, and I didn't used to think about that as like a factor. But then I heard Daniel Cormier mention it about Stipe Miocic, where he was like, yeah, I think the reason I knocked out Stipe is because he had just been in there with Big Francis like 6 months earlier, and he rushed back in. He had a bunch of fights with all these heavyweights that hit hard back to back to back, and his chin didn't have a chance to be refreshed. He said, when I came into that rematch, he was taking the shots way better, and I wasn't taking the shots as well because I had been more active while he was taking some time off. So I think that is also something that's influencing me just a little bit here, where even in that last fight with Rose, Weili took a lot more conservative approach. Is she going to do the same thing here? If she doesn't, I think she's going to get hit pretty cleanly. Joanna, for better or for worse, she throws pretty rote combinations, but she's going to throw them, and she's going to, normally land a decent volume of strikes, especially over 15 minutes here. So the only play that I have at all in this fight is a Prize Picks entry. I took the under on significant strikes here for Weili Zhang. And the reason being is multifaceted. Number one, if she knocks her out, it goes under. Number two, they're basing the projection on 5-round fights. The only times that Joanna's conceded that, 5 times she's conceded that number of strikes in the UFC, every one of them was a title fight. Every one of them was a 5-round affair. And so that was my Prize Picks look for this week, under for the significant strike total on Zhang Weili. I think even if she wins this fight, that might look like her getting some takedowns, some top time, and not necessarily clearing 81.5 significant strikes. So for me, that was an interesting look.
All right. Good breakdown. Just going over everything here. Frank saying JJ won the first, will win the second. I'm going to agree. I'm not going to base it solely on that fight, but I'm going to agree. Joanna being better from distance, fights from distance. Yeah, I think that as long as she doesn't have a mega mind head, she's going to be able to escape it away from range. What's up, Gabriel? Welcome to the chat. Jay Smooth, torn in this fight. I feel you. Bet Joanna the first time around, thought she won. I did too. Okay. Let me just say my final thoughts, because that's a luxury of being on your own show, right? I get the final say. I think that this is going to be a very, very close fight. I know you're saying all this stuff about basing it on the last one, and unfortunately I am, because I think they both fought to the best of their abilities, and we're going to go out there and they're not going to leave anything in their pockets, right? 3-round affair. I think that is going to be a lot of volume from Joanna, a lot of power from Weili. I don't see many takedowns. I see a striking affair, and over a 3-round striking affair, like I don't think you could tell me that either one of these could win convincingly. I think if you're going to say, yeah, Weili Zhang is going to knock her out, then you can take that shot like you did. But if we're talking about a 3-round affair like I am, when it goes to the scorecards, I don't think that either of them should be a huge favorite at all. Plus 150 is what I got on Joanna. I think that she has the volume edge. I think she has a striking accuracy edge. I'm hoping she has a durability here to stay with her. And I'm just hoping for a fun fight. Greatest female fight of all time. There's no debating that, in my opinion. So let's get another fun one. Unfortunately, it's only 3 rounds. What I will say, though, is I've been lucky enough to partner with Thrive Fantasy. If you guys want my free play of the week, it is Joanna over. So no Prize Picks for me. We're going Thrive this week. I think that Joanna, her significant strikes at like 62 on Thrive. I think she gets way over that. I think it's going to be a super fun fight. That's my play. Use code Gordo there. But let's move on. 2 fights left, both title fights. And I still haven't heard Liam's hot take. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I gotta make sure I hear that one soon. But let's go for it. Valentina Shevchenko, Tyler Santos. Valentina Shevchenko looking to add another ruby to her belt. Facing a tough task, sort of. I know a lot of people who are taking the shot on the dog, but of course, this is a Valentina fight. The biggest question I've seen all week is, can Santos be Juliana Pena and dethrone the queen? It's a tough fight, because whereas Tyler Santos does have decent physicality, she's going to be outmatched in cardio, volume, striking accuracy. No bet for me in terms of the money line pick. I did bet the over, because I do think Tyler Santos is a lot tougher than people are playing her out to be, and I do think that she's able to withstand the early barrage. And Valentina's also been known to play with her food. We all know that. Official prediction for me is going to be let's say a round 5 finish for Valentina Shevchenko, but I think it's be a lot closer scrap than a lot of people are saying. Am I crazy to think that, or what are your thoughts on this one, Kelton?
Man, so I started thinking to myself a few months ago, I'm like, who can be the one to dethrone Valentina Shevchenko? Unless your name is Khabib or John Jones, nobody has taken that. Nobody's taken that, or somebody is going to eventually take that belt from you, unless you're that 1%. And man, when I think about who can beat Valentina, I tend to think it's one of the newer breed girls, like one of these like above average athletes, somebody who clearly takes their vitamins, somebody well-rounded, good experience. I tend to think of these new breed girls like Manon Fiorot. We just seen a couple weeks ago, although I thought this performance was a little disappointing. I think about girls like Erin Blanchfield. I think about girls like Tyler Santos as well. I've actually been high on Tyler for a while. Unfortunately, I bet her in her UFC debut against Mara Barella. We all know how that turned out. I'd bet that 99 times more out of 100. Is what it is. She eventually woke up in that fight, and we could see like, all right, yeah, this girl is legit. It was just a little too late, and she's been able to go on a nice little run since. Like, she's got good kickboxing. She is really strong. She can get takedowns. She can hold girls down. I think Tyler Santos beats a lot of people. It's just, is she going to beat Valentina Shevchenko? And back to the long reigning champions coming to an end, a lot of the time it's when it seems like the champions are kind of, I don't want to say growing out of being a champion, but like you can see it takes a toll mentally on a lot of these fighters. And like a lot of the time they're relieved when they lose the belt. I sense none of that from Valentina. Valentina is here to stay. She's here to win fight after fight. It seems like maybe the next decade. She wants to defend her belt here. She wants to go up and challenge for the 35 belt. If Valentina gets dethroned, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, unless it just turns out Tyler Santos or Manon Fiorot is just the absolute truth. I don't think it's going to happen. Can Santos have moments in this fight? Yeah, I mean, we saw Jennifer Maia take down and hold down Shevchenko for a round. Sure, Tyler can do the same thing. It's just, can you do it for at least 3 out of the 5 rounds? I tend to think no, and that's mostly because I like the adjustments Valentina makes in fights, and it's going to be tricky as hell to win on points versus Valentina. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I think the line is probably accurate, but I don't know if it's probably accurate in the sense that Tyler really does only win this fight maybe 1 or 2 times out of 10, but like the way it's going to play out, I think it could play out to where it looks a little closer. But in the long run, I just don't think Tyler can win 3 rounds here. So I'm going to go with Shevchenko. Could be competitive at parts. Tyler's tough. I'd like to think she can survive all 25 minutes here. So I'm going to go with Shevchenko, 49-46, unanimous decision.
Fair play. That bodes well with my over bet there. Yeah, if we're going to talk about the elephant in the room, 9.6K on DraftKings. It's kind of like the best option for cash, in my opinion. I don't know if Liam's going to tell me otherwise. Valentina's a way to go if you want to play up top. We've got enough dogs to get to her. I'm definitely having a lot of her in my lineup. That being said, will I have any Tyler Santos ownership? I mean, maybe. Her win condition, I think, is probably a finish. I don't know how well her gas tank can hold up near the end with Valentina. So I'm sticking with my guns there. Give me Valentina round 5. Liam, is this the truth bomb, or what's going on?
All good things must come to an end, my friend. I'm not saying that it's going to, but I'm saying that I'm willing to take the chance. Because it's not going to be there forever, right? And one of the things I think that defines my betting style is that I am looking to get off the train first. I'm looking to get on the train first. Like I'm trying to find spots people aren't always looking at. And granted, she's getting some love this week. I was disappointed. I thought it was going to keep going the other way. So I was waiting on my entry point. I've been planning on playing this fight for some time. And, I was looking at the plus 500s thinking, I bet I'm going to get a plus 550. I'm going to get a plus 600. And I got greedy. So then the numbers started coming down. I haven't seen it come back above the plus 450 mark on any book I can access. So I hit the plus 450 here. And I also hit the inside the distance at 10-1. I also hit a little bit of sub here at 18-1. I know I'm taking a little bit of a shot in the dark here, but here's the reasons why, and I'll explain them all. First and foremost, Talia Santos is going to be the first woman, in my opinion, that can physically match Valentina Shevchenko in several years, right? Like, you look at these women, and I'm trying to be respectful and thoughtful when I say this. It's like some of these women look like they're not professional athletes. They look like they're tough girls, they're fighters, they're people that are out there working hard and training and have a goal and a dream. Talia Santos looks like a professional athlete. If she told you she was a basketball player, you'd be like, okay, fair enough. Like, nobody would question that she is a professional athlete. I think you could say the same about Shevchenko. And so when you're in a division where you're the athlete and everybody else looks, again, trying to be respectful here, but more like they're, a friendly neighborhood, workout enthusiast, that's not the same deal. I think that we're getting somebody who's categorically different in terms of physicality in this matchup than recent matchups, first and foremost. Then we look at examples. All right, have we seen chinks in the armor of Valentina? Because if you ever listen to her talk, she'll tell you, I'm perfect. I have no flaws. There's nothing wrong with me. I've never done anything wrong. But then you look at the fights, and there are some things that you say, hey, maybe somebody else could build on this. How about Juliana Pena taking her down easily, getting on top of her, dominating her from the top position, moving around positions, and then eventually she does what she used to always do and just gets subbed from on top in a fight she's dominating, right? Did the same thing against kickboxer Jermaine Durand to me. So it's not to say that Shevchenko, struck lightning. She's the only person that ever figured it out against Pena. No, she did what other people have been able to do, submitted her from bottom, but she got taken down. She got controlled. Okay, then we flash forward. Surely she's closed up this gap in her game. She has no holes in her game. There is no hole. There is no weakness. He'll never find it. This is what she says. But then Jennifer Maia, who I don't think very highly of, gets an easy takedown, rides out the rest of the round. So then you see Shevchenko has the brain, the wits to say, I'll just out-wrestle her. Just like Holly Holm against Ketlin Vieira. I think that when these girls have an outlet, which is I'm better at grappling, so it doesn't matter if the striking starts to fall apart at any given point. I could always bail myself out. I don't think she has that here. And I also think she's used to having a punching bag where she can – I watch the Jessica Eye finish. She literally throws 2 unobstructed kicks to the body. So the kick that goes upstairs, it's a formality. She just was teeing off on her, taking free shots and walking her into stuff. When I watch Talia Santos, she slips kicks. She moves out of the way of strikes. She moves, counters, and returns. Like, she's not perfect. She's going to make mistakes in this fight, but she's young. She's 28. She's big and strong and durable. I don't think she's going to get hit and get knocked out instantly. So maybe she gets finished, pummeled down the stretch here. Valentina, of course, I mean, she's minus 600. Frankly, she's supposed to do that. I'm saying I see a girl here who's going to resist, who's going to be very physical, who has chances to get on top. And if this fight plays out on the feet, we're saying it's minus 600 in women's MMA when one girl attempts 8 strikes per minute on average, and the other girl attempts 15. I don't know about all that. I don't. And when one girl is facing 8 strikes on average, people are afraid to fight her. They don't want to throw anything at her. They don't want to come forward. They don't want to attack. So they stand there. They watch their title opportunity slip away, like Liz Garmouche. She didn't even do anything. Nothing happened in the whole fight. It was a couple leg kicks from the outside. I would be stunned if we get that fight. I think Talia Santos is going to come forward, swing heavies, try and hit this girl, try and hurt her, try and put her on her ass, and try and fight her. I'd like somebody to go out there and try and fight her at plus 450 when nobody else has been out there resisting. Joanna offered resistance. Yeah, it wasn't perfect. She's tiny, and she was able to go out there and give a good, honest account of herself, and I thought that was a fight that showed some vulnerability. By the way, she had to muscle her way out of like 5 back takes from Joanna Jędrzejczyk, right? She just had to like whizzer throw her back to position because she gives up these clinch scenarios all the time. And she gives up double underhooks. Talia Santos is big and strong. She's got a longer reach. She's taller. She gets double underhooks. It's body lock city. And I bet Valentina goes down. So I'm taking Talia Santos, and I think she's got a decent enough chance. I think if she gets on top of her, one of the things that we find out about veneers of invincibility in MMA is they go away real fast when somebody starts to lose. It's really easy to be the dominant champion when you're winning. But then when dominant champions meet resistance, they tend to lose inside the distance fast. Not all of them. Some of them get dominated over 5 rounds, like Tyron Woodley sitting there evaluating their career. But like I'm saying, most of the time they get a vicious reminder that they're human, that somebody else can thump, that somebody else can get them in a chokehold. Jan Blachowicz, on top of the world, back to the bottom. The exact same way he lost all the fights on the contenders, like on the way up. So it's like, I just think sometimes people lose sight of it when somebody's a champion, like they can't be beat. They have this aura of invincibility. But I went back and I watched and I saw there might be some gaps here. I haven't seen a girl this big try and push her in a long time. And forgive me for saying Talia Santos, a blue belt, might be able to out-grapple her when she's gone out there and out-grappled several black belts now in the UFC. I'm just saying, I know she had an outlier bad performance against Mara Borello, but I'm just not going to hold that against her forever when everything else I've seen since then. How many people had UFC jitters and then went on to be a UFC champion? Eddie Alvarez, his worst fight in the UFC, besides the Conor McGregor abomination, in fairness, was when he went out there and just got owned by Cowboy Cerrone, leg kicked across the octagon and fell over like 50 times in round 3. So I think that sometimes we put a lot of pressure on people making a UFC debut and then are ready to write them off forever. It's like, since then, she's looked like aces. That's the reason she's in this fight. So as far as I'm concerned, I think Talia Santos could surprise people. I'm willing to take the risk and find out.
So you're saying that Santos may be able to get past that cloak of invincibility. At what percentage do you accredit Santos winning this fight? Like how many times?
That's a good question. Man, that's a difficult question. I would say I find it hard to put this below a 30% outcome, 25 to 30% outcome.
So you're betting on the number, not on her. You think that she wins a lot of the time.
Dude, I mean, what are you going to say? Valentina Shevchenko should be plus 200? It's like, I mean, let's be serious. I'm
No.
not trying to be delusional. But what I am saying is she going to cover minus 600 against every girl in the UFC? I mean, against the people that are just warm bodies brought in there when it's minus 1800, and it's literally just like, are we betting the sub or the KO? It's like, those fights, that's not what people are talking about this week. They're talking about, should I play the underdog, or should I parlay this money line, or maybe I take a poke on the champ on the props. People aren't talking like it's a foregone conclusion, and I think that's for good reason. I think she deserves that respect. You know, who has made her look like a foregone conclusion? Nobody. Vera Barella beat her, what, by split decision?
Meant it more so as like, what would you play the number up to? Because I know you had minus plus 500. So
I mean, I probably wouldn't touch anything above plus 400 because at this point, the number would have moved too much. You know, you could have gotten the plus 500s. You could have gotten the plus 550s, I believe, at a certain point. And now, you know, plus 450 was kind of my entry point. I felt good about that. I feel fine with that number. But, yeah, probably anything below plus 400, I'd be a lot less interested. I think my margins would be a lot thinner.
All right, bro. I respect it. Best of luck to you on your bet there. And to your own credit, the greatest sports bettor of all time, the man Jordan Leavitt himself, has a bet on Taylor Santos on Bet MMA Tips. So maybe you can play that one there. But that leaves us with our very last fight. I know both you guys have a busy night ahead, so I'm going to go over this one really easily. I have a 5-unit bet on the under. I parlayed it last week with that Metafield under. I'm not a guy who likes to do max bets, but this is a max bet for me. And I got 5 units at minus 130 for the under 3.5 going into this one. So pretty happy about that. I'll probably play the under some more. But this is I don't want to categorize it as simply as a striker versus grappler, but that's pretty much what it is Glover's getting up there in age. He's been cracked a lot before. But what he has this huge knack to do is he's able to come back from these fights and shoot those takedowns and ground people out of there. And he's just able to come back and win. And he's facing a guy in Jiri who is just this absolute samurai warrior killer. And if it stays on the feet for extended period of times, like it's going to be dangerous for Glover, but he's crazy. He probably overextends himself, right? So it's a really interesting dynamic. I think that, of course, the favorite should be Jiri. He has the power. He has the upside over the older fighter in Glover. But if he's not careful, he overextends himself. I mean, he was taken down by Reyes. I think if Glover takes him down, it would be very, very dangerous. I have not placed an additional bet on this card or on this fight, but I was just looking at it. I mean, FanDuel's got Glover Teixeira sub 1 at plus 1,200, sub 2 plus 1,700. I mean, that's his likely path to victory. I might be looking at something like that. So I don't know. I'm picking Jiri to win. I have him in my DraftKings lineup. But let's hear what you guys got to say. Liam, you just talked a lot, so I'll give you a break here. Kelton, how do you see this one going down?
So this is my third and final bet of the card. I have 2 units on Glover Teixeira to win inside the distance at plus 280. I have no problem taking the extra 110 cents of value or so because I do believe this fight ends inside the distance at least 9 out of 10 times, I would think. And that's just a matter of their weaknesses play into each other's strengths. We talked about that on a different fight earlier. And I don't really want to call this a striker versus grappler because I do have a lot of respect for Glover's boxing. I just think that we're all kind of just calling that because we know it's dangerous for Glover on the feet, but it doesn't mean he can't have success there. I actually think he can have a lot of success there. I mean, Jiri fights with his hands down. His defense is terrible. Like, if you want to bring up that he lands 7 or 8 strikes a minute, you also got to bring up the fact that he eats about 7 strikes a minute. And man, you don't want to be taking a lot of those clean technical punches from Glover Teixeira, who's got some underrated power. And we've seen Jiri hurt in the past, knocked out by King Mo in the regional scene out there in Ryzen, wobbled by Dominic Reyes, 80 significant strikes in round 1 against Volkan Oezdemir, got hurt by him. That was a sketchy first round. Now we know Volkan kind of slows down after the first round, has done that pretty much his whole career. And Jiri was just too physical for him, too explosive, too powerful. And that is the guy's biggest strength, is how damn explosive, powerful, creative this guy is. And not only that, like, I feel like he has a very good mentality for the sport. I love the primal confidence this guy just bleeds. Like he's awesome. And I do believe at some point in his career, Jiri Prochazka absolutely could be UFC champion. But for me to think that he's just going to come in here and win the strap in his third UFC fight. Now, granted, he does have a lot of experience. You know, he's got over 30 fights, but it's different in the UFC, man. And for him to come in and take the belt in 3 fights, that would be very, very impressive. And it's with Glover Teixeira, man. I mean, like, how can you not have respect for this guy? Like, first fought for the title 8 years ago, and now here he is at 42 years old, dominantly won. Didn't just win the title, dominantly took that belt from Jan Blachowicz. It was truly, truly impressive, man. Yeah, I mean, if this fight gets down to the mat, I mean, Dominic Reyes had this guy full mounted, for Christ's sakes. Like, can you imagine if Glover gets that position? I don't think Jiri's getting back up. And like I said, even on the feet, as much as I don't want it to be there for Glover, I think he can have success, man. Another thing I want to say about Jiri's past matchups in the UFC, did Jiri have to worry about takedowns from Volkan Oezdemir? Did Jiri have to worry about takedowns from Dominic Reyes? He's going to have takedowns on his mind here to worry about from Glover Teixeira, and I think that might just affect his output just a little bit. Yeah, I mean, this is a huge challenge for him, man. So for him to sit here at minus 200, I mean, I don't just view that as disrespect for the champion. I just kind of view that as overflated hype on the side of Prochazka. Can I see an argument for him being the favorite? I mean, hell yeah, he's got a huge age advantage here. You know, he's a scary dude. Like, we've seen the way Glover has lost in the past, like the Gustafsson fight, the Rumble fight. He's gotten knocked out in those fights, and that's what Jiri can do. So it's a little scary in that sense, but I mean, you said it earlier, it's all about the value in this game. And if you're going to give me the champ at, you know, I took the plus 280 on the inside the distance, and that's purely because I think if Glover has success, Jiri ain't lasting very long. So yeah, I like that bet a lot. I think Glover retains, and I think the old man's got a couple more left in him too. I'm excited to see if he can take on these guys like Ankalaev and Jamal Hill as well. Like, there's a lot of challengers out there, and could you freaking imagine if Glover Teixeira in his early to mid 40s cleans out the division? Could you fucking imagine? I don't know, man. I think it could happen. So yeah, Glover's the pick. Glover's the bet.
Hey, respect to that. And whereas I am on Jiri, I do understand that like he has a huge part of his game that's untested, but he scares me. He's just a warrior, man. So it is a very tough one. I agree with Jay Smooth here that hey, it's a tough fight to pick a side on. Just give me violence. I mean, I'm playing both these guys on DraftKings 100% of the time. You got to bet on the under 3.5. I will add something. I'm probably the under 1.5, and I'll probably even play some Glover round 1 sub. But if I had to make a prediction, it's Jiri first round finish. And I don't like saying it because my heart says Glover. We're cheering for Glover. We all are. Well, I don't know. Maybe Liam will change that, but all logic sides with Jiri, unfortunately, using that 13-year age gap and probably putting the lights out of Glover here. Just give me violence. Liam, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, man. I got to say, I've been on the Glover train, you know, all the way to the bank, right? I cashed this guy as a plus 230. I think it was plus 235 against Jan Blachowicz. Cashed him as a plus 200 against Thiago Santos. Cashed him to win by sub in both of those fights, boys. So was very, very happy with my man Glover delivering with excellence every time for the kid. But with that being said, and I got to shout out my man, the coach, said stop Brazilian hate on the Talia Santos fight. I could not agree more. Coach, we got to. I tried to tell them with Ketlin Vieira, they didn't want to hear it. But this is what I'll say. This fight for me is tricky. And the reason being is because you got a guy in Jiri that is unproven at the UFC level. But I use those words carefully because I went back and I watched everything I could get my hands on from Jiri Prochazka. And the guy's been fighting talented guys for a long time. You know, he's fighting the Nemkovs of the world, the King Mo's of the world. A lot of people talking about that fight. Very few people talking about the fact that fight was in 2015. All right. And in 2015, Glover Teixeira was losing fights to guys that aren't so good either. It's like, we could go back and do that. We could go back and do that game where we talk about, hey, how about Carl Roberson rock this guy real bad, send him all over the place? How about Iwan Kutalaba hit him with a spinning back fist that made him reevaluate his credit score and every other thing that came to his mind at that time. He was out there like doing shopping lists and everything, as Dana White once said about Steve Mazzagatti. Like, Glover has been hit so hard, he's had to do a dissertation in the middle of the cage. Like, the guy has an absolute insane warrior spirit. But eventually the wheels have to fall off the tracks for my man. And when I look at this fight, I see a guy who's probably got the wrong tools to match up with Glover. And here's what I mean. The Anthony Johnson fight doesn't last very long, right? What happens? Glover does what he normally does. He advances and he goes to throw an overhand right and a left hook. He doesn't even get the combination off because he gets hit with one shot. Johnson resets his feet, moves out, resets, and fires an uppercut from absolute Hades that killed him. Like, I felt bad, dude. Glover woke up 35, 40 seconds later. He's wrestling the referee. Like, he was completely knocked out. That was 2017, I think. So it's like, or 2016 maybe. I've been doing a lot of research today. I got a lot of dates floating around my head. But either way, the guy has just been in all these fights that are very contentious, a lot of wars. Thiago Santos had this guy all but finished in round 3, and he literally blew it. Like, if you watch that fight back and you had Thiago Santos, my heart breaks for you. You're probably like, how? Why do we lose this fight? Because he literally is on top of him after hurting, dropping him, rocking him badly, and he's throwing hammer fists and just lets him sit up, gets taken down, and gets instantly finished. No, I offered no resistance. The one thing I have to say about Yuri is I have seen this guy take an absolute shit kicking and not quit, ever. Like, I have seen him get choked and go right to sleep. Like, the guy was in a bad rear naked choke situation. He went right to sleep. So I think that if Glover Teixeira gets a hold of this guy's neck, Yuri Prochazka is going to sleep. The other thing is, though, I don't know that Glover's ever going to get a hold of him in this fight. I kind of envision this being like the Johnson fight. And the reason being is because I saw guys that are very strong, that have a pretty good base about them in terms of like their hand position. Yuri, he doesn't keep good hand position for striking, right? That's the reason he gets hit cleanly on the chin all the time. But he does have good hand position for grappling. He's keeping his hands like here at his sides. And I think that what he's going to be able to do is push him away at the shoulders enough times to create space, find uppercuts, find knees up the middle, and hurt him in the first round. So if I had to pick here, I'm also going to go with Yuri Prochazka by first round knockout. I love Glover, but I also think the last point I'll make here is just when you have built up this goal and this dream and this aspiration, his whole life is built towards being a UFC champion, and he did it. He reached the mountaintop. You see, after that fight with Jan Blachowicz, he doesn't even jump right up to celebrate. He sits back and basks in the fact that this is my life's work. I did it. But that was against a 38-year-old who was almost 39, who's an age contemporary, who was on his own Cinderella story to the title. Yuri Prochazka is the kind of guy that is a UFC light heavyweight champion more often than not. He's a young, super athletic, dangerous guy who can kill you quick. And I know John Jones was a different archetype, but he kind of was a little bit of a break from the mold. I do think wrestlers, grapplers have dominated at 205, but we're starting to see some of these guys, like you mentioned, the Jamal Hills of the world, the Magomed Ankalaevs, they're bringing a little bit more of that rounded game. I think Yuri Prochazka, he is not the most well-rounded light heavyweight, and there will be light heavyweights that can offer him problems in every phase of the game. But I think Glover Teixeira, unfortunately, his speed and his durability may be his downfall this weekend because he has used a lot of that durability through his career, and he is an absolute soldier. Love watching the guy compete. But I think eventually that bill's going to come due. And against a guy who's this fast, this explosive in the very first round, I think that that's a tough business. But I'm expecting a great fight. I think your position is the safest, to be honest with you, Gordo. I think somebody's getting finished here. I think somebody's getting finished in the first 3 rounds. The way that these guys fight is come forward and get in a fight. I've never seen, a boring Yuri Prochazka fight. The most boring one was against King Mo, and it was only boring because Mo got tired and couldn't do shit. He literally was out there, starting to, suck wind by round 3. But I think that Yuri Prochazka, you watch King Mo number 1, you watch King Mo number 2, you're going to see it's not the same fighter we're dealing with. And I think he's made small incremental improvements throughout his UFC run as well. He's a guy who's vulnerable, but I think this is the right matchup, the right timing. and I think he's probably going to be our new UFC champion. I'm calling this UFC 275 new blood. We got new blood coming in. I think a favorite in the main event, underdog in the co-main event. That's the way I'm rolling this week, and I think that the new blood takes over. I think the UFC is going to have a changing of the guard.
Love it, man. I love it. And with that, we are done the UFC 275 full card breakdown, an hour and 44 minutes. Quickly before I let you guys get out of here, shout out to Cage Mike, my man. Jerry Early, Glover late. Love that. Oh, I'm covering Kelton's pretty face. Sorry about that. Jay Smooth, Violence for sure. And Frank, as always, good talk. Thanks, guys. Of course. Now, with that, guys, as soon as I let these guys tell you where they can find them, now is the time to go check out that DFS video. Now's the time you can go check out what Liam's doing on his channel. Kelton had a breakdown yesterday. Everything that is linked down in the bio. But don't take it from me. Take it from them. Kelton, as the guy who's winning the NHL series, will let you go first. Where can they find you?
You can find me at Twitter at MMAKelton. You can also find me at YouTube at MMAKelton. Do a breakdown for every card. Love this sport, and it was a pleasure talking to both of you guys. I believe this is the first podcast I've done with both of you guys, so nice to meet you all. Hope we get to do it again, and cool. It was fun, man.
Awesome. No, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do it. You had some great takes, and best of luck to you on all your bets. Hopefully the Glover and the Kang ones hit, so I can beat you on that Joanna one. But no, I appreciate that. Best of luck for you in baseball as well. Liam, let them know where they can find you.
Absolutely. Appreciate all you guys. No quit in New York, baby. Even though we're down, doesn't mean we're out. Gonna keep scrapping there. But you can find me everywhere at LiamPicksFights tonight. After jiu-jitsu, I'm going to go get some rounds in, get the rolls in, and be coming back. Going to be going live with my man Tim, maybe another special guest. We'll see how it shakes out. But me and Tim Troiano are going to be breaking down the card tonight around 11 p.m. Eastern on my YouTube channel. So stay tuned for that. Very excited and appreciate the opportunity as always, Gordo. It's always a pleasure. Kelton, it was a pleasure speaking with you as well. Yeah, I'm fired up, man. We don't always get these great cards that have a lot of depth and substance, but I think that that's what we have this weekend. It's only 11 fights too, so it's not, necessarily your whole Saturday. Maybe some time to celebrate after if we can get these wins across the board. So let's do it. One for the good guys.
I love it, man. I appreciate you both once again. Now's the time. Go check out the other videos. Go check out their YouTubes down below. Make some money with us. Support us all on Twitter. My DMs are always open if you want to talk there, but that's going to do it. I appreciate you guys. I've said a ton. I got to keep on saying because I had a lot of fun doing so. Best of luck to you guys and everybody else in the chat and all their bets, and let's make some money.